it's Amanda here from Lolli Lulu Crafts, and today we're going to be using this Birds of Britain kit from Hunkydory to make ourselves a panorama card, but we're going to do it, or concertina card, whatever you want to call it, we're going to do it without using a die. We're going to do it all by hand, and it's really easy. It isn't hard at all. So let's get going. So the first thing I've got is I've picked out some decoupage. What you want, if possible, is either there are CDs available that you can buy that are designed to do this, and I will try to remember to put those on the corresponding blog post for you, and take a peek at that by clicking the link down below. Not only will it give you all that sort of information, it will also give you lots of photos. Anyway, going back to this, what you want to do is find some decoupage, if possible, that can connect at the sides. So like here we've got the duck, and then the duck here that has the three sides connected, and then we've got the duck layer here, again it's connected at the sides, so that just makes it a little easier for you to do. It is possible to do it without that because you can use acetate, etc., but if you can't, or if you don't have to, then obviously it's easier. And having said that, that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be using these layers of the duck, and we will make up our concertina card. Okay, so the first thing we do need is not this. We want to make our concertina sides. Okay, so I've got my cutter and also this scores at the same time, and I've got a piece of Hunkydory cardstock in this gorgeous green which matches perfectly with my duck, and I've also got some cardstock here. Now I'm probably only going to need one piece, but I've got two just in case. So we're going to do a 6" by 6" card, so I'm going to cut it literally at 6 inches, and we're going to have a 6" square. Now this is going to be the back of our card. So that is our back piece cut, ready to go. Okay, now we're going to be cutting to do our concertinas. So we want to make it the same height. Now obviously if we weren't doing it square, if we were doing it taller than it is wider, then we need to take that into consideration, but at the moment all we're doing is the height. That's the only bit that's relevant. So the height is 6 inches, so we want to cut our piece of card here to 6 inches tall. Okay, and then we want to do some scoring, and we'll cut the excess off after we've done our scoring. Now the depth of your scoring really is up to you. I personally like 1/2 inch. I think that's more than enough for what we need to do, so I'm going to score at 1/2 inch here. And actually, before we do any more, let me just bring in here, I know it's a bit of a mess, but let's see if we can make this make sense of what we're actually trying to achieve. So what we've got here is, this is the back. We're looking down onto our card, so this is the back layer of our card that we just cut, and these are the concertinas. So what you need to do is work out how many layers you've got. Now I've said I've got 3 layers and a front. What you then do is, this is your back first piece here. This is this bit here that you cut, that you've just scored, so that's going to attach to your back piece. So that's one piece. Then you're going to go forward, back, forward, back, forward, back, and you're going to work out how many times you need to do that depending upon how many layers of your decoupage that you are going to need, or that you have got. Now the depth of your concertina really is up to you. I don't like it too deep because then you can lose some of your kind of picture behind it a little bit, so I think it's quite nice to have it not too deep. So I do 1/2 inch. So this is my first score, 1/2 inch. So we're going to have a mountain or a valley, whichever way you want to call it, and then we score again. So we're going to basically score 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then that would be the front. I hope that that makes sense. It's always hard to try and explain these things when you've got a rubbish drawer like me. So at the moment we want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 score lines at 1/2 inch per time. So that's 1, 2, 3, okay, and then we want to cut that at 1/2 inch from that score line as well. So there we have our first concertina side. I know it's hard to catch those, and then we're going to do the same for the other side, like so. So now we should have 2, yep, exactly the same across pieces of concertina sides. So the next thing that we need to do is fold our concertinas, and what you need to make sure is that you fold them the same way, so you start at the same place. So if you fold to this way first, so back on itself like so, do the same on the other piece as well, so that one, and then fold that one the same as well. So start off in the same direction, and then that way you know you've got the right thing. Okay, and then just keep going. I tend to just fold like so, and then go back with my score tool afterwards, like so. So there we have our 2 side pieces, and you must always make sure that you have them working mirror imaged. So this would be wrong. Can you see they're the same way round? They're both facing, this piece is both facing to the right. You want them to be facing towards each other so that it's mirror imaged and you can work on it in the same way. Okay, so that's those pieces done. So now let's get so here I've got a piece of acetate just in case. I've also got a piece of paper for the front of to make my frame. And so now what we want to do is we want to pop out our decoupage layers, and then you could stop there if you wanted, and I may well do, but I may just use this on the front. We'll see how it goes, because I was thinking it might be quite fun to put like an acetate front to it, and then we could, if we're clever and we can be careful about it, we could line our little duck up, and I think that would be quite good fun. Okay, so now we need to start making our layers up. So we've already made our back layer that's going this way, sorry, and now I've got to make the other side of this, because this is just personal. When I pop this on here, yes, I know I could put it in front, but I think it makes a nice strong concertina if you put it behind, because it's really hooked on to this piece then, whereas if it's on the front you could potentially pull away, whereas as I say, this way it's much stronger. So what I want to do is take this piece here, this gorgeous little duckling, and I want to put this on the back, and I think that would make it look really, really nice anyway. Gives a really nice effect. So I'm going to cut that to 6 by 6, and we've still got this piece. We could just do that as it is if we wanted to, but I'm going to use our little duck. I just think it's going to be really cute, and we've got plenty of sky at the top there if they do want to write something on the back. There's space for that as well. So that is our back piece, and that is our inside back piece. So hopefully that makes sense. So then that is our back piece that's going on to the inside as you're looking at your concertina. But what I wanted to do on that was just add a little bit of a layer just to make it look kind of pretty, give it a bit of dimension. So I'm gonna just cut this to 5 1/4 by 5 1/4, just to give a nice amount of the paper showing. So there's a nice border around, and I think that's really pretty because it just makes a nice effect. And then that is going to then layer onto here like so. And I think that looks really nice. And then we're going to keep this piece as our front piece, and then we've got our acetate here as well, that's also for the front. So we need to now just work on our inner layers here. So if you wanted to have made it easier on yourself, then get your decoupage size to be exactly the same, and that way when you put, what you would do is you would be sticking this directly into your concertina on each side, and then it would just go doink doink doink. But I wanted to give it a bit more layering at the edge, a little bit more to it, so it's very simple to do, but either way. But just to make it really simple, you could do it like I say, just adding the layers, and then you would take the next layer and you would pop him into that section there, and gradually just build that up and then stick it down onto the other side, etc. But what I wanted to do was have that bit of extra width, to have a bit of matting and layering at the back, and basically, as always, make things a little bit more complicated than perhaps they need to be. But I just think it's fun, and it's not that difficult to do. So I'm going to take some acetate, and we know that my piece of background, or my card, is 6 inches. So we've got one piece here, 2 pieces here rather, that we want to ensure that go across at 6 inches width. Well, I'm not bothered about putting acetate above the ducks at all. I don't actually want that at all. I think it doesn't need it. So this piece was approximately 2.5 inches, just to make sure that we don't get these top pieces here. And then, so if we cut a piece here at 2.5 inches, like so, and then all we will do is we'll cut that to 6 inches, but that will then sit like so. And we've created 2 side pieces that are invisible, and then these side pieces will adhere to our concertina, and we'll make this 6 inches width. So let's just get rid of this piece of acetate for a minute, and we'll cut this to 6 inches. And then this little fella here is 1.5 inches, I believe we said. Yep, so we can do him at 1.5 inches, and then again by 6 inches wide, and that will then sit behind him to create just those little side pieces that will then stick to our concertina. Now for the front, I want a piece that is just under 6 inches, because we're going to be creating a frame. So let's see what width we've got. We've got plenty on the width, so let's do it at 5 3/4, just to give ourselves a little bit of a margin, because we don't want it right to the very edge, because that would make it more fiddly to stick down. So 5 3/4 by 5 3/4. And again, you don't have to have an acetate front. You could have it completely sort of open if you wanted to, but I want you to have that because we've got this little duck here, and I figured that we could stick him onto the acetate in the right place if we're clever, and that would look like another layer to our concertina. So I thought that would work really nicely. So now I need to do my frame for the front. So we need to start off with some cardstock. Okay, so first of all we're going to cut the piece of card to 6 inches square. But what we then want to do is create like a little frame. So for that, really, we will need to use our dies. But before we do that, let's just cut our gorgeous paper to also 6 inches square. And then just double check that that all matches up nicely, which it does. And what I think is simplest for this, when you're creating a frame, the best thing is to, and you want your frame to be covered, the best thing is to stick the 2 layers together if you're going to die cut it out, and which is what we are going to have to do in order to. You could use a craft knife, but the same principle applies. In order to make sure that it's absolutely in the same position on each time, you should really stick it together before you die cut it or use your craft knife or whatever it is. So that's what we're going to do next. So we're just going to take our tape pen here, and just go around all the edges, and then making sure there's plenty on there, because we don't want bits to be loose when we take it off, when we die cut bits out. Okay, and then very carefully just pop our paper on the front, making sure it all matches. Like so. Doesn't that look nice? It's beautiful paper. It goes so nicely with our little ducklings as well. Okay, so before I cut my frame out, I think the next thing I want to do is start to put my concertina together, because until I've done that, I'm not entirely sure how wide I want my frame to be. So I'm just going to pop that to one side, and we're going to start putting this all together. So the first thing I want is my little duckling here and my piece of paper, and I'm just going to stick that together. And as I said, you don't have to, you can do it less complicated than this if you want to, because you don't have to make the layering in the way that I've done it. You could just, sorry, concentrating there, you could just have done it exactly the size of the decoupage, and that would have worked just fine as well. Okay, and then we're going to pop him onto there. So again, just using my tape pen. Like so, and then popping that in to the center. So I think that looks really nice. So the next thing we're going to do is add one of our concertina sides. So as I said before, I'm going to add it to the back, and don't forget we're covering that anyway, but even then, even if you didn't, it doesn't look dreadful just having those pieces there. It's just me personally, I prefer to cover it up. I think it gives it some extra strength as well. Now for our concertina pieces here, I do like to use our red tape. It's really, really strong, and I think that it just makes sure that it's not going anywhere. So just put a little piece of that on, and peel the backing off, which is always a fun job because it doesn't like to come off. There we go. And then very carefully, and what I tend to do is flatten it out, and then pop, making sure it's the right way up, pop this in to the little valley here, lining it up. Hold that bit down a little bit, lining it up there with that, with the crease, making sure it's absolutely central, and then folding it over rather than trying to put this onto it. I just find it doesn't work as well that way. Okay, so that's Just making sure we'll fold that back on itself now. So that's one side of our concertina put on to the back. Now we're going to do the other side exactly the same. So you want it mirror imaged, remember. And then now we've got our concertina sides. Now in this instance, if you had just normal decoupage like we were discussing, all you would do is then build it onto these pieces here, stick it down onto each of these sides, the front edges, but don't do one side and then do the second side. Don't try and do both sides at the same time. It just doesn't work. I don't know why, but it just doesn't. I think it's to do with the way it stretches out. It just doesn't work. So you can see how this is going to come together now, and also the fact that once it's standing up, it's going to stand as a popped out card like this, but then when you put it in the envelope, it squashes right down to nothing, and you can put it in a regular envelope. Okay, so now I want to pop that and that to one side, and I want to do my little pieces here. Now I think the easiest way to do this is to add the acetate on, and then to add afterwards to add our actual ducks, etc. So we're going to add each piece of acetate, not the front piece at this point, and then we'll add our layers of ducklings, because then we know that they're going to be in the right position. So the first piece is of our acetate, and then a second piece of acetate, just adding whoops, I'm going to put that there, and then just adding a small amount of red tape. Okay, so then we're just going to loosen the layer of that and take our first piece of acetate, and just looking at roughly where this little duckling is going to be, because obviously it's higher up, it's not starting at the bottom, so we need to just roughly see where we want him to be. So that would be approximately like so. And that just gives us a rough idea of the position of the acetate, so that when we put the little duckling in place on the acetate, it will be not too high, not too low, etc. And then we need to do the same for the next piece. So let's pop this one down. Actually, we don't need to put that down there at all. We'll just use, it's going to be the bottom, so it's going to be the same level, but on, I'm just using the, there we go, I'm just using the other side to help me balance it and keep it straight. Okay, so the next thing I need to do now, therefore, is put little bits of red tape on the far side. So you want to take your pieces here and flip them over. Now if they had something on them, even if they were the decoupage, do exactly the same. Flip them over and put the red tape on the back. Okay, so then we want to stick this piece down, so we're going to take the red tape off the larger piece, which is the first layer, and just laying that down like so, and laying that down like so. locks that in position perfectly. So then before we stick the next layer down, we need to put our little duckling down in position to create our layer. So all I'm going to do for that is just take a little bit of tape and then just line it up with the bottom here, making sure it lines up with all the rest of it, like so, and that creates our little layer of decoupage. Now if you wanted that thicker, you could take it to the next layer. You could miss one of these, you could go to there, so it would be wider if you wanted to, but I'm happy with it just being nice and gentle. So now I'm going to take the next layer and stick that down. Like so. And then we're going to take our little duck and just pop him on here, making sure that it lines up. Like so. And again, look, you can see now how it's really beginning to build up and just looks so pretty. So that's those done. So now what I want to do is pop my acetate in position here. Now, as I said, if you wanted it just left like that, you would cut one less concertina, and then all you would need to do then is add your frame. But because I want to add my little duck on the front as an extra layer, I'm going to add in this piece of acetate here. So I'm going to just put some red tape down both sides, and then again, don't forget, let's do one side at a time. So taking this side, just making sure that it fits in, so I'm going to slide that in as if it's in position there. And don't forget, we're having a frame on this, so it doesn't have to be perfect, but it does have to fit. And it is a little bit more fiddly, and I'm going to just forget what I was doing there, and I'm just going to pop it in, and I'm not going to stick it down perfectly yet, and just make sure that it will fit across. Yep, so that's going to fit lovely. And then I'm just going to take the tape off this side, or the backing off the tape I should say. And the principle of this is exactly the same as my lovely tattered lace Christmas card. You just make the sides, but instead of the way we did it there, instead of hooking them in, you can just stick bits in. So the idea and stuff is the same. There we go. Okay, so there's that piece done. Now what I want to do, just so that it hides all of that, and because I am actually putting a frame on it, but if you weren't, you could then just put a little bit of tape down the front here at the sides and use that as you're finishing off, and just leave it like finished with just the sides done like that, which looks really nice. But I want to add my little duck in position here and the ducklings. I think that gives a really nice sort of dimension finish to that. So let's just put that on there. Just flatten it down and pop our little duck and ducklings into position like so. Isn't that cute? And that look adorable? Okay, so now what we want to do is take this piece and create our frame. So what I want is for it to be just about the size that it would take it to the inside of this piece there. So that's going to be a little bit big because I want it to be on the inside of these pieces at the side. So let's just try one size down from that and see how that looks. And then I'm just going to center it. I've got my magnetic mat down and I've got my acrylic plate and then another acrylic plate, and we'll just pop that through the machine. Okay, so we've actually got a nice spare piece there, and then we've got our frame here for the front, and I think that actually makes it look really, really nice. Oops, everything's gone wonky. Okay, so I think what we want to do now is stick that bit down. Before I do that though, I'm going to stick the back down, and I tell you why, because I can just see the frame moving somehow, and I think it's safer for me to stick the back down and get that bit out the way. So I'm just going to use my Cosmic Shimmer glue and take our lovely little duckling back piece here. I think that really makes it look nice and finished on the back, and it's almost like another card, isn't it? Like so. And then we're going to go over to the front and we're going to do pretty much the same, but I'm going to be a little bit more cautious of the amount of adhesive because I don't want it squelching out. So just flatten that a little bit. Because I don't want glue everywhere. Okay, so then just taking that and popping it onto the sides here. And there is the frame on that. I think that looks really nice. And now all I think it needs really is just a sentiment up here in the corner, probably up this side actually. Just get a sentiment off the sheet that we got our little ducklings off. Okay, so I've got this cute little sentiment that's tag, which I thought would look really sweet up in the corner here. Just saying, just for you. And then I created a little bow in green baker's twine, which I thought would just go over the top there as well. So I'm just going to get a bit of tape and pop that down. Like so. I think that looks quite cute. And then I've got mini dots, mini glue dots here. So I'll just take one little glue dot and then take the little bow and position it in the centre there of our tag. I think that looks really cute. Okay, so here it is, our completed Panorama card, or Concertina card, whatever you like to call it. I sort of showed you as it went along how you could simplify this, but I also wanted to show you that it wasn't difficult to go a little bit more with it, and that, for example, the Christmas card that I made, if you had dies that were similar, or a Cricut machine or whatever, that you could do something very similar yourself using this sort of principle. And the beauty, of course, is that it completely folds flat, so it would go in a normal envelope. As long as you haven't put foam tape behind. I know with the Christmas card that I made, that beautiful white one, that had a lot of layers and dimension because I put dimension behind each layer. But if I had done that, say I put each piece onto acetate and then stuck that acetate to the side pieces instead of sticking each layer to themselves and building it up, then I could have easily have pushed that down flat and put it into a flat envelope, and it would have worked that way. So, you know, what I wanted to show here was sort of show as I went along how easy it is to do just a very simple version, but also that it's very easy with just acetate or anything really, just to make it a little bit more than that as well. So I hope that you found it useful. I hope that it's answer some questions, because I know I did have a couple of questions about making Panorama stroke Concertina cards without dies, so I hope that's helped those people that asked me about it, and thanks so much for your questions. I love it when you send me questions in and ask me to help you out, and because it gives me ideas of things to do for you. So please do carry on asking me. Thanks again so much for watching, and I will see you again soon. Bye for now. Bye.